talking at a biohacking conference about heart hacking is because we are a three-part system: mind, body, and spirit. So if we want to have a good day today, we want to make sure that we're present and grounded and embodied. So we're going to start out with a connection to the breath today. So I'm going to ask that everybody stand up for me if you're physically able to. And if you have something in your hand, totally fine. But the reason that we're going to connect to the breath is because the breath is the anchor to the present moment. And it allows us to get into the body, to be able to have all of the connections that we're going to have today, receive all of the wisdom that we are going to be exposed to today. So what I'm going to do is guide you guys through a two-part breath sequence. It's going to be a two-part inhale. The first part is going to be into the belly. So we're going to breathe in, and then we're going to breathe into the chest, and then we're going to hold at the top. And as we hold our breath at the top, we're going to send our energy up through our spine, through our crown, and then we're going to exhale. And there's going to be a vocal activation on the exhale. So you guys are going to make noise. Whatever noise comes through, you're going to make noise. If it's a grunt, if it's a sigh, if it's a little squeal, get a little weird, I don't care. I want you guys to allow yourselves to be heard so that you can connect to your authentic presence, your authentic voice, so you can have connections today that are from the heart. So on that exhale, you can invite some movement in as well to really get into the body and free up that stagnant energy. So invite some movement in your hands, maybe in your legs. Shake it out a little bit, but just don't elbow your neighbor. Don't punch anybody in the face. And as we do this, I'm going to have you guys close your eyes so that you're not worried about what you look like, what you appear. Don't worry about what you sound like. Everybody's already worried what they sound like, so they don't have any capacity to think about what you sound like. All right, so I'm going to invite everybody to close their eyes. And if you have a free hand, place a hand on your heart. And if you have a double free hand, put a hand on your belly. And follow my voice. We're going to inhale into the belly. Inhale, chest. Hold, send your energy up through your spine. And exhale, let it out. Beautiful. And we're going to do that again. Inhale, belly. Inhale, chest. Hold. Let it out, shake it out. Beautiful. More, I need more. Breathe into the belly. Inhale. Inhale. Hold. And exhale, let it out, shake it out. Yeah. All right. Now we're going to open our eyes, smile, greet your neighbor. Hello, welcome. We're happy to be here. Community connection. Awesome. All right. And then we'll take a seat. Thank you guys for doing that with me. Sometimes I need the breath a little bit more than you guys do. So thank you. I liked hearing you guys get a little rowdy out there. That was cool. Now, for those of you that I have not yet met, my name is Gabby, and I'm a communication coach. I'm a speaker, I'm a facilitator, but behind all of the titles, I'm a leader of human connection. So I work with multi-generational teams and leaders, and I help them to communicate across generations and personality types, because the workforce is the most diverse age range-wise that it's been ever before, and we need help communicating, all the help we can get. So that's what I do. But the reason that I'm here at a Biohackers conference is so that we can learn to build connections from the heart. And I'm going to go ahead and say that every single person in this room has at least one thing in common. Probably many things. We live a similar lifestyle. We're at the same conference. But I'm going to go ahead and say that every single person wants to be the best version of themselves. And that's why you guys are here. You're at a conference. You're investing in yourself, in your health, and your wellness, and your longevity. And you want to learn. You want to grow and expand. And you set goals, and you're used to achieving them. You're used to growing and expanding. But on the other side of that, as a high achiever myself, I know how exhausting it can be. I know it's stressful, and that need to be hyper-productive, always growing, always learning more, always reading up on new technology. New products seem to come out on the market every day these days, and it can be overwhelming. And so sometimes on the back half of being an overachiever, we can burn ourselves out. There's a lot of stress, and we know that stress leads to illness. And sometimes when we're so stressed out, we're so exhausted, we don't want to hang out with our loved ones because we don't have any tank left in our gas tank, any fuel left in our gas tank. So the reason that I'm here is because as humans, we need human connection to live our best lives. We need human connection not only to survive, but to thrive. And who in this room wants to thrive? Wants to thrive. You guys want to live your best lives. That's why you're here. You want to live long lives, high quality lives, okay? And I know, because this has been my life, I know both sides of it. I know setting goals. I know achieving goals. I know making the vision board and then seeing the vision board come to life. But I also know how burnt out I was when I threw myself into my corporate management role and I went all in and I didn't have any fuel in my gas tank left. And long story long, I grew up a hyper-competitive swimmer. And when I mean competitive, I mean competitive. And I went off to swim at the University of California in San Diego, and I blew out my shoulder in my very first race at USC. So I didn't get the college swimming career that I expected to get, and then I was identityless. I didn't know who I was outside of being an athlete. So I came home and I tried the entrepreneurship route for about 3 years, tried to find my identity there, and I was successful, which landed me a corporate role. And I threw myself into it. I was gung-ho. That's me on my first day. So I'm super, super excited, and I throw myself into it. Full force, like hyperachievers do. I was working 10 to 12-hour days. I was working Saturdays and Sundays, and that's what you do when you love what you do and you work hard. But I was exhausted. I was stressed out, and this is when I first started learning about biohacking. Do you guys know how many chemicals they put in our foods? Okay, this was the first time that I had ever learned about any of this. And so I'm trying to run a business, I'm trying to stay in the gym, I'm trying to transform my diet, my entire health plan, and I'm burnt out more than I ever had been before. I was getting sick more than I ever had been before. I wasn't hanging out with my friends because I was so exhausted. I stopped calling my parents because I didn't want to admit to them that I was depressed, I was lonely, and I was a shadow of the person that I was when I first started the role. So long story short, I moved to Costa Rica at the beginning of 2024. I was there for about 4 months. I volunteered in Conscious Community on a permaculture farm, and then I sailed the Atlantic. And then I moved to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, renovating a property up there, all in pursuit of my purpose and why I was placed on this earth, what I meant to do, my gifts, my passions, and how I wanted to actualize my potential in this lifetime. So now I'm here with a newfound appreciation for what really, really matters to me. And it's my relationships, it's my loved ones. And now I get to teach other people how to build those relationships through communication. So I've worked with executive teams, attorneys, coaches, I've spoken at conferences and events, helping people to do exactly that. And so that's what we're gonna talk about today. Because here's the deal. People who take care of themselves are usually the ones that are strongly socially connected. In fact, those that have strong relationships actually recover from illness quicker than those who don't. They recover from periods of grief and stress and depression and anxiety quicker, if at all, than those that don't have strong social connections. And there's been many, many, many different research studies that have proven that individuals with strong social relationships actually have an increased likelihood of survival of 50%. So here's the deal, guys. They found that health risks associated with social isolation are comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. They actually exceed those linked to obesity and physical inactivity. It's crazy how important human connection is, not only to the quality of our lives, but our longevity, our wellness. And here's the deal. There's many of you guys in the audience that are probably thinking, but Gabby, if I eat McDonald's for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, if I don't sleep, if I don't exercise, and I lay on the couch all day, it doesn't matter how many strong social connections I have. It doesn't matter how many times I see my friends, I'm gonna be unhealthy. And I would say you're absolutely right. I'm not arguing that you throw the pillars of your health away. I'm arguing that there needs to be a shift in perspective. The perspective shift is that our relationships are not a beneficiary of our health plan. They're not an extra, a supplemental component. They're the foundation. Because when we are strongly socially connected, we're happier and we're healthier. So don't forget to take your supplements and don't forget to do your infrared light therapy and sit in the sauna and do your meditation and keep your morning routine intact. But don't forget to call your mom. Don't forget to hug your friends. Don't forget to sit across from someone and truly listen. Because as humans, we need the human connection. If we want to decrease the depression and anxiety that is fully forced at us in all different directions today, if we want to ground ourselves in even a little bit of all the noise that we're presented with in this day and age, if we want to improve our self-esteem, our immune system function, our sleep, our memory and focus, we have to stay rooted in our relationships. And we build those relationships through conscious communication. So we're going to talk about the ABCs of conscious communication today. If we know how important our relationships are, we have to know how to build them. So let's talk about it. The A in our ABCs of conscious communication is absolute presence. Now, presence is kind of a buzzword nowadays. You always hear about being present and practicing presence. That's why we connected to the breath in the beginning of this beautiful day that lies ahead of us. But being present, I'm going to put it in two ways, because we have different ways of thinking and interpreting things. The first way I'm going to put it is be where your feet are. Wherever your physical body is, that's where your energy and your focus should lie. Number two, it's rewiring your thoughts and being able to take yourself out of what needs to be done to what's happening right now. So often we're in the past, we're in the future, we're not fully in the present. And there's a famous proverb that says the closed hand cannot receive. And what that means under the umbrella of presence is that when we're closed off, when we're distracted, we're in the past, we're in the future, we're not open to receive all that the present moment has to offer us. In a conversation, when we're closed off, holding on to what we want to say, our own thoughts, our own opinions, trying to prove ourselves in what we share in that conversation, we're not open to receive another individual. And being received is a core need in all of us as human beings, to be heard, to be seen, to be valued and appreciated. And we're not present for others. Oftentimes, it shows up in the way we communicate. We interrupt one another because we're so excited to get out what we want to say, we're not really listening to the other person who's communicating to us. How many of you guys, by a show of hands, actually like being interrupted? You like being cut off in the middle of what you're saying. Oh, it's the best. It's not. Actually is my biggest pet peeve. But here's the thing, I do it when I'm not present. When I want to hurry up and get out what I want to say. So how do we practice presence? I'm going to give you guys 3 tips. The first tip is to set intentions and frames around your conversation. To set an intention just means know the energy that you want to hold in a conversation. Know the attitude that you want to go into a conversation with. How do you want to feel in the conversation? How do you want the other person to feel in a conversation? And what do you want to walk away with the conversation with? So important to know these things because then you set a direction for your energy to go. If we don't do that, it's like we're swimming in a lazy river. Anything could stop us. We could hit a wall on the left, we could hit a wall on the right. Nobody knows where they're going in a lazy river. So set intentions, and then the frame around your conversation is going to enhance the quality of your conversation like a picture frame enhances a photograph. So stay on track. Stay in alignment with what your intentions, the energy that you're holding in the conversation are. And then we have to eliminate distractions. There's so much noise in the world nowadays, guys. Our phones, they're never off anymore. But it's not just our phones, it's our thoughts. It's looking over our shoulder every time the door opens while we're in a meeting. We're so easily distracted because there's noise 24/7. And your greatest superpower is your attention and your focus. Don't give it away so easily. If you're in a conversation and you're not able to quiet your distractions, reschedule the conversation or bring the elephant out from the middle of the room and into the open and allow it to be addressed. Big deal, we're all human. And the third thing that we need to do is get comfortable with silence. Because so many of us think that silence is awkward. We run from it. We try to fill every bout of silence every moment we get. God forbid, I feel anxious or somebody else feels anxious. And so we rush our responses. We react versus respond. We cut people off. And silence is critical because what silence allows for is expansion. What silence allows for is the opportunity to open up, to go deeper, to share. And more information for all of us leads to deeper understanding and better relationships. Jefferson Fisher is a trial lawyer, and he has a really great podcast all about communication. And he says, let your breath be your first word. If we could just wait 3 to 5 seconds to respond, you would be flabbergasted by the amount of information that would be shared because we're not cutting people off or rushing their responses. Nobody wants to feel rushed when they're talking to you. I promise you that. So if you guys are with me and you want to have better conversations and you want to improve your relationships, we're going to take a vow. We're going to raise our hands and we are going to say, I will not interrupt the next person I have a conversation with. So if you're with me, repeat it with me. I will not interrupt the next person I have a conversation with. And if you guys are having a conversation with me after this and I interrupt you, call me out. Call me out. It's important. I still do it. Now, the B in our ABCs of conscious communication stands for be genuinely curious. So often we go into a conversation worrying about what we're going to say, having something to prove versus something to learn. But if we can maintain this energy of being open, being curious, not only do we learn, but we appreciate and validate another person, their experiences, their likes, their dislikes, their struggles, their successes, all of the above. So we're going to practice. I want you guys to turn to someone next to you, and I want you to share something that brings you joy. And your only job after you share is to listen. So go ahead, turn to someone next to you and share what brings you joy. All right, now that was like a trailer. That was a trailer, and you guys now have to continue these conversations after this speech when you guys have a chance to talk outside of the keynote hall. That was beautiful. I love hearing your guys' voices. Did I just interrupt you? This is crazy. Guys, if somebody called me out, it's this guy right here. So if we're genuinely curious, it's not hard to be genuinely curious, right? We actually care what the other person has to say, but I'm going to give you guys some practical strategy because sometimes it's helpful. So the first thing I want you guys to do is initiate more conversations, especially if you came to this event solo. You know, everybody kind of is feeling a little bit like, I don't know these people. I'm walking around like, oh, okay, hi, hello, how are you? But if you really want to build connections, initiate more conversations. And another part of initiation, if you expect people to open up and to share, you got to share yourself. So initiate by opening up, by sharing your story, by sharing your experiences, by sharing your struggles, by sharing your successes. Not from a pompous place of, I'm so awesome, but genuinely because you want to build a connection. And then if the other person or people across from you aren't already so excited to share after you did, then you can ask questions. Ask questions that allow them to open up, that allow them to expand. But read the room. You're not going to ask somebody their deepest and darkest secret the first time that you meet them. But if this is a relationship you've had for some time, instead of just asking, how was your day at school to your kids, you might ask, what was the hardest part of your day? Or what was your favorite part of your day? And if you're at a networking event, instead of where are you from, you might ask, what brought you here? Stories. They're so powerful. They connect us as human beings. They're in our blood. And then we listen. And Celeste Headley has a TED Talk called 10 Ways to Have a Better Conversation. And she says, if you're actually listening, it's not that hard to appear like you're listening. So when you are having a conversation, engage yourself with your body language, your eye contact, maybe ask clarifying questions. But the reason it's so important is because every single person in the history of the world has entered a conversation with the same end goal in mind, and it's to be heard. That's why we speak up. We have a deep desire to be seen, like I said before, so be that person to see others. It's crazy the amount of impact and influence we have when we can validate another person and their experiences. And then the third element of a conscious conversation, C, stands for connection. Emotional intelligence. And what is emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence is our ability to read, manage, and respond to emotions of ourselves and to others. And if we can't come to terms with our own emotions, we're definitely not going to be able to do that for others. So we have to become hyper aware of what feelings feel like in our bodies and how they influence our behaviors, our actions, and our communication styles. And the reason we have to be aware is because if we're ever going to be on the radar for somebody else's emotions, it starts within ourselves. So we're going to connect to our feeling body by shouting out how we're feeling today. So use some feeling words. How are you feeling today, guys? Great. Energetic. Great. A little tired. I would say right now I'm feeling very grounded. I was a little nervous before coming up today. I was excited, but I'm feeling grounded. I'm feeling connected to all of you guys, which is really, really a nice feeling. So the reason that emotional intelligence is so important is because it builds safety. When we validate those emotions, we talk about them, then it builds trust, builds deep relationships through understanding. And our emotions are our greatest teachers. So often we try to suppress emotions, we run from certain emotions, or we rank happiness higher than sadness. God forbid somebody feels angry. That's a bad emotion. We can't have that. But if we would just listen to our emotions and trust them to guide us to where they're trying to, the places that we need to go in our conversations and in our relationships for more depth, for more growth, for more understanding, then we would be able to accept them from a place of non-judgment, rather gratitude. And the beautiful thing about emotional intelligence is that it can be grown, unlike IQ, and it's the greatest predictor of our ability to succeed. It's not IQ. It's not your ability to memorize Excel functions or use Google Drive. It's emotional intelligence. So first comes first, we have to acknowledge our emotions. We have to know what they feel like in our bodies, how they affect us in our communication style, and then we can acknowledge other people's emotions. Then we accept them from a place of non-judgment, and then we ask others how they feel in our presence. Because so often there's a gap. There's a gap between the way we perceive ourselves and the way that others perceive us. And if we want to bridge that gap and lead ourselves back to oneness, we have to get an understanding for how other people receive us, how they view us, how they perceive us. And I'm not saying to change yourself based on other people's perceptions, but an understanding. The more information, the better. You're always better off with more information. Whether you discard it, you integrate it, it's powerful. So ask people in your life how they feel when you talk to them. And this matters. Why? Why am I talking about this at a biohacking conference? Because if you guys want to live high quality lives, if you want to experience less stress, you want to experience less burnout, less health issues, if you want to increase your ability to heal, increase the amount of joy you feel, the amount of creativity you experience, intimacy in your relationships. And I don't just mean physical intimacy, I mean closeness. But physical intimacy is pretty cool too. If you want to live longer, better, and healthier lives, you've got to root yourself in your relationships. So we're going to review the ABCs before I'm done here. A, standing for absolute presence. B, for be genuinely curious. And 3, for connection, emotional intelligence. This is how we build deep relationships, through conscious communication. And I talked about feedback, so now I'm going to ask for your guys' feedback because I need it. I'm young, I'm new in this. So this is a survey that's going to ask you guys a couple questions. If you have a phone, please take your phone out and scan this QR code. It's super, super helpful for me. Because of course, what you guys think does matter, not because it dictates or estimates my value, but because more information always leads to deeper understanding. And then my contact information is up here. So if you guys struggle with communicating across generations, that's my real work. But it's rooted in human connection. So if you guys want to have a conversation with me after this, you're welcome to do that. And the last thing that I will leave you with is that all of the products out here in the expo hall are revolutionary. They're amazing. I've tried them out. I love them. I own some of the supplements, and you guys probably take similar ones to me. But when life gets hard, it's not your supplements that are going to keep you afloat. It's your loved ones. The people who remind you who you are, who encourage you and love you unconditionally. So don't forget to pour into those cups as well. Thank you so much.
We love the Biohackers world. We really loved it in LA. We love it here in Chicago, especially because this is a new market that's opening up now. And then Miami, of course, was phenomenal last year, and we're looking forward to this year on November 1st and 2nd, which will be an amazing event. I think it's going to be huge and really exciting.